Today on Tanaka Homestead, I want to talk to you about 2 effective ways to eliminate weeds and some pathogens in your garden. If you live in Central Florida, you know that there's a rainy season. It usually starts in May and it ends around August, beginning of September. Now, that's not to say that it's not going to rain again. I mean, we are in hurricane season and it will periodically rain, but this past rainy season was very different. It rained for prolonged periods of time and it rained multiple times throughout the day. And I just had a really difficult time getting into the garden. I mean, I would walk outside and it would start raining with little to no warning, or I'd walk outside and it would start thundering, and I'm not playing around with the thunder, because usually if it's thundering, that means that there's lightning to follow, and it's just, no, absolutely not. So it just made it hard. So it made it hard to address things that I normally can stay on top of. Weeds in particular, I would pull the weeds if I could get out, into the garden, but I would pull the weeds as often as I could. I'd come out a week later and they would be there again. Mold became a huge issue with the heat and then all the rain, and it destroyed my okra. And then the pest, that was also a problem. But a lot of the things that I try to use in my garden, I try to use organic products, and oftentimes those products have to be reapplied. And of course, when it's raining, it just makes it very, very difficult. So I had to come up with a conclusion, some sort of, I needed to do something, because I didn't want this leaking over into my fall planting season or my spring. And I came up with tarping. So I want to be clear, I did not invent this method. This method has been used by farmers and gardeners for years. So it's very safe and effective. And for me, if I can get the job done without using chemicals, which I absolutely try to not use chemicals, I try to be as natural as possible, as organic as possible, then that's what I'll do. So there's 2 ways you can do this, okay? You can do occultation, which is where you use like an opaque material. It could be a tarp, it can be cardboard, it can be black plastic. Then you have solarization, and that's where you use usually a clear plastic. And there's very important differences between the dark tarp or black plastic and for solarization using clear plastic. So solarization is where the sun's light obviously is going to penetrate and it's going to heat up the soil. It's going to get the soil very hot, and that is going to do a great job of killing those weeds and the seeds, and it could even kill some pests in the soil and even some fungus. Okay, so that is great. Now, the difference, though, with occultation is that because you're using a black plastic or some sort of opaque material, what's going to happen is the sun's light is going to be absorbed. It's not going to go through, obviously, because the sun can't penetrate. That is also going to heat up the soil. It's just going to take longer. Now, I will say, when you consider weed control, if that's really what you're going for, I'm a huge fan of the black plastic because no sunlight gets through, and that is very effective for weed control. Keep in mind, both of these methods can be used wherever you live. It seems like in the cooler climates, people tend to go with solarization versus the warmer climates. Living in Florida, you can do either because the sun is it's so hot and the heat is blazing. So you can kind of pick how you want to approach it. But when you do pick your material, for me, the black plastic, if you choose a plastic, you want to make sure it's at least 2 to 6 mil for it to be effective. Here is a very large area of black plastic. I actually had grass here, but I plan on extending my garden, so I wanted to get that area prepped. And you can see all my raised garden beds. They also have the 6 mil black plastic. And like I said, I had to do it. Forgive my walkways. See all those weeds? I actually need to pull those. But yeah, so I covered everything in black plastic, okay, where I was having the area. So having said that, what do you have to do to prepare? Well, in this area, I had grass. So whenever you have grass, you want to make sure you cut the grass really, really low to the ground. Over in my garden beds, I had a lot of weeds and whatnot. I did the very best I could to pull all those up. And then once you do that, you would add water and you would moisten up the soil and cover it with your tarp or whatever it is that you're using. Now, some people like to till the soil before they do this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it could easily be helpful because it can bring up some weeds to the surface and loosen up the soil, which is always good. I did not do that, but that is definitely a step that you can add, and it certainly would be helpful. My garden plastic, and I'm not making this up, it's easily been 8 weeks that these beds and everything's been covered. Now, on average for occultation, it can take 4 to 6 weeks. And when you talk about using a clear plastic or implementing solarization, that can be anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Now, that's an average, okay? And when you're dealing with the Florida sun, of course, those timelines are going to be different because it's gonna do the trick much quicker. But that is just to give you an idea of the amount of time it takes to get the job done. So sometime this week, I'm going to start pulling back my plastic and prepping my beds for seeds. When I pull the plastic back, I'm obviously going to amend the soil. I'm going to put my compost in, loosen up the soil, and I'm going to get those seeds planted. So I am super excited. This method does work. It takes a little bit of time to get, the plastic down or the tarp, whatever it is you're using. But I am telling you, it is well worth it. You can avoid those chemicals and you can have a great outcome. So thank you so much for watching my channel. I hope that this information was helpful, and happy gardening. Bye-bye.